Yes, they don't have enough food and their wounds are not treated because people in Gaza don't have enough food and their wounds have not been treated. What they repeatedly and consistently say is that we ate what Hamas ate and we got the care that Hamas received. They were treated equally as Hamas, and to the extent that the conditions were bad, it's because Israel is denying aid and food to Gaza. That is not in dispute. By contrast, Israel does not have that same excuse with respect to how they treat their prisoners. And I cut this down for length, but there is ample reporting of sexual violence against Palestinians that has been corroborated by international authorities, including against Palestinian children. And those claims are not being weaponized in the same way to justify the October 7th attacks on Israel.
I think that's fantastic to uncredibly accept all of those accusations while rejecting out of hand
it's not uncredibly
what people are saying that they witnessed.
It's a question of whether or not it's been investigated.
It's a question of shifting the blame for what's happening to Israel instead of the terrorist group that took the people hostage. We can critique what Israel's doing all we want. We do plenty of that. But like 92% of the blame here for people being, 100% of the blame for people being murdered in their cars and at bus stops and at a music festival and then being abducted and captured and the conditions they're in and them dying still. That's 92% on Hamas.
But that's it's not about shifting blame.
Well,
the reality is that
all our time sitting around saying.
But Robbie, if I ever bring up the fact that 24,000 Palestinians have been killed in 3 months, then the response to that is, well, that's Hamas's fault. Everything comes back to Hamas's fault, in fact, in the blame shifting, and not the fact that Israel has been
Hamas's fault?
Engaging in an occupation for 75 years, that the people who originally populated Gaza are people who were driven from their land in the Nakba, that Israeli officials are on record repeatedly saying they want this to be a new Nakba and articulating plans to ethnically cleanse the remaining population of Gaza to surrounding states, that they have announced a strategy of collective punishment, which is a violation of international law. And now, I'm not even talking about Gazans. I'm literally trying to advocate for Israeli hostages that Israeli major newspaper is arguing are being purposefully killed strategically by their own government. And you're still framing that as me somehow advocating for Hamas. This is literally a segment about how horribly Israeli hostages are being treated in this scenario
you think that
by their own government.
The 3 who escaped, who were shot by IDF, you think they were purposefully killed?
I think they were purposefully killed, yes. I mean, obviously, a gun was aimed at them and they were purposefully killed.
You think the IDF soldiers who shot
stray
them
bullet
in their brain said, this is a fleeing hostage, this is an Israeli hostage who's coming, and I should kill them?
I think that's the question in dispute, and there is a lot of evidence that I presented in this.
I don't believe that at all.
So when the Times of Israel reports that the Hannibal Directive was stated Israeli policy as recently as 2016, why is it so incredible to you that it would continue to be policy or be reintroduced as policy in the wake of the, earth-shattering events of October 7th?
And again, you can say this policy is wrong and they ought to value the hostage's life even above eliminating a terrorist threat. But if there is, for instance, if they were, and again, the Israeli government has denied that they're doing this, but I read the reporting as well. If terrorists and hostages are together, according to this directive, it would be that, they shouldn't not kill killing the hostage dying as well is an acceptable outcome. Not that fleeing hostages should be killed on purpose.
But no, Robbie, that's not right. And
I think that's insane to believe that's Israeli government policy.
That's why it literally, quite literally, explicitly was Israeli government policy. And that's why I included that Mearsheimer quote. Because what Mearsheimer describes is the first scenario.
Again, that's
wait a minute, let me finish this. Mearsheimer describes the first scenario, which is, oh, okay, in the fog of war, you don't know exactly where people are. You're willing to take the risk of bombing a place, even though a hostage might be there. But he says that is different. Go back and listen to the clip. That is different from the Hannibal Directive, which purposefully tries to eliminate hostages that are being held by your enemy so that you are never in the position where you have to negotiate a hostage exchange.
But these hostages they had escaped. They were fleeing toward the forces. All right. People can make up their own minds about this. More Rising right after these messages.